Hello, welcome to season 5 and another great episode of the Big Time Strength Podcast. We have a great show coming up for you. First, let's take a deep dive into our sponsors. Our first sponsor, TeamBuildr. TeamBuildr is the software for strength and conditioning coaches. Join the thousands of coaches that log into TeamBuildr every day to write training programs, build questionnaires, and access and track athlete data. TeamBuildr is compatible with mobile devices, laptops, tablets, TVs, and now wearable devices, which makes it the perfect software for any setting. If you sign up with the code BIGTIME, you will receive a 25% discount on the Sports Science Certification course. Build the foundational skills necessary to manage data and learn how to transform that data into actionable assets for your program. You will also receive a free 10-week football programming template, which works automatically within your TeamBuildr 14-day free trial. No more spreadsheets and workout cards to track training maxes that change day by day, especially during breaks. Head to teambuildr.com and sign up with the code BIGTIME to save time and paper today. This episode is also brought to you by PowerLift. Taking your athletic facility from concept to completion can be a challenge. At PowerLift, it's their goal to make the process as seamless as possible from start to finish. Their weight room equipment is made of the toughest materials that can withstand excessive use from coaches and athletes alike. It's sought after for its unique design, customizable appearance, affordability, and their superior warranty that training facilities want and need. Their weight rooms are designed with the athlete in mind, and they pride themselves on the ability to outfit athletic facilities based on a team's unique goals. That's why high schools, colleges, universities, professional sports teams, and athletic performance facilities around the world have chosen PowerLift to help maximize their strength training facilities. Call them today to be contacted with a rep in your area and give them a follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to see for yourself why their clients are PowerLift proud. This episode is also brought to you by Vitruve. Vitruve is a velocity-based training system designed for colleges and high schools around the world. It is accurate, reliable, and affordable. The software is quick and easy to set up and use with a whole room of athletes simultaneously. Coaches have chosen Vitruve because it simplifies VBT and allows them to seamlessly integrate it on a daily basis. Check out Vitruve now for your school's free demo unit. Well, hello. Welcome to season 5. How's it going, Preston?
Hi, Amanda. It's going well. I'm excited for season 5.
Yeah, so you've been here, pretty much since the beginning, right? You came on in season 1.
Yep. I think like 6 or 7 episodes in, something like that. And I don't remember what year that was, but I think we're close to year number 5. I think the seasons almost go yearly. They're close anyway.
All right. What have you been surprised by?
I think one of the coolest things is just the amount of people that reach out and say, hey, thanks for doing the Big Time Strength podcast. And one of the things that I've always loved is, like, selfishly, I get to learn as much as I can and bring it back to Mount Vernon. But the thing that I think is cool along the way is being able to help other people do that too. And the big thing is, like, showcase all these coaches around the US that are making the big time where they're at. And so that's been a lot of fun. Obviously, that would be, what you're looking for in this podcast is trying to figure out what does it look like for maybe longevity in the field, and being able to impact student athletes, over not just while they're in high school, or maybe you're a middle school coach, or maybe you're a small college coach, but like the rest of their lives. So that's been something that's been really fun and will always stand out to me.
Yeah, that's what I think I've really taken on too. I love hearing from different coaches, especially like you said about longevity. That is going to be a big, a big part of my focus this year. And just with everything changing in and out and strength and conditioning. So I love learning from this too. And I love being able to have access to, if you hear about something in strength and conditioning, or if you want to dive deeper in it, and being able to contact these coaches or go back to a podcast. I love that part about it too, and just having an inventory for years to come from these great coaches.
Absolutely. And that's one of the cool things that we're going to do this season is hop in and dive in just a little bit more to topics, and be able to do some roundtables that are more specific to things within strength and conditioning. Still want to do the one-on-one interviews and learn about coaches making the big time where they're at, but want to continue to be able to give resources about things in day-to-day setting of the weight room, or within speed training sessions, or whatever that looks like for you in your training. So super excited about that this season. And Amanda, maybe you can tell us about the structure of what it'll look like over season number 5.
Yeah, so like you said, we really saw the need of bringing in a little bit more deep dive. I even think about this weekend. I was at the Iowa Physical Education Shape Conference, and we really talked about how expensive everything is, as far as tech goes, and being able to hear from experts about it would, I think, help with the decision making, especially at the high school setting where our resources often are limited. So we thought being able to do roundtables, we can pick a topic and just really get into it, and then bring in, more than one expert. And it's a great way to bring in some of the coaches that we've already heard from. We get to hear from them once, and then we hear about what they're experts at. But so roundtables will be coming in. We'll also be still continuing the interviewing process. Preston will be interviewing, and I will be interviewing, and then we'll keep going with a few of the crew chats. And speaking of the crew, our friend Miles, he has taken on a new endeavor, right?
Yep. He's at a new place, and I'm actually going to talk with him here soon about the ins and outs of that details, and talk a little bit more high school training, primarily the people that will be working with his high school athletes. So it'll be fun just to dive into that, where he's been at the collegiate level basically the whole time that he's been coaching. So kind of those differences, and be able to dive into that. But thanks to Miles for helping us out and being able to interview some awesome coaches, and just give to the Big Time Strength podcast for the amount of time that he did.
Yeah, and I'm excited because he's coming into Minnesota. So
Yes.
We'll get to work with him. He's out of Rochester now, and like you said, we'll be working primarily with high school athletes. So he's come to our side of the world, and we wish him the best of luck with that part. We're still going to have Gage on once in a while. He's rocking it in the private sector while being a farmer at the same time.
Yeah, and working at a family distillery. So yeah, they've got a lot of irons in the fire. Just got to hang out with him this weekend, and Gage, I think, has a lot going on, but it's all going pretty well, and it's really cool the setup that he's got to be able to put together. The gym, I'm going to go see it this next weekend, and he's finally got his strength shed put together, and has been having members out there for a couple months now. So that's exciting for him. And whenever he's got time between the distillery, the farm, and the strength shed, being able to hop on podcasts, I think is still going to be the plan with him.
Okay. And then, we really, after reflecting, we really saw a need on our end. I mean, we definitely pride ourselves for being working coaches. I'm actually, if you can hear the weights right here, I'm in the weight room today and I have a few kids, but one big need that we saw is we've been trying like heck for over the years to keep the social media current and up, and it's just been a hard part. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can barely keep up with my own social media, like for Mustang strength and speed stuff, and trying to add in the Big Time Strength podcast has always been a challenge.
Yeah. And so we are bringing on somebody, Jessica Gus. She's a former guest, actually. She's out of St. Louis Park. And if you've seen her social media, she's SLP Lift. She does a great job with it. And we thought, and she's very organized. She's taking on a different role as far as teaching this year, and focusing a lot more on the strength and conditioning portion. We thought, well, maybe this would be a good time to see if she would like to do some stuff. So hopefully on the social media end, you'll see a little bit more interactive and making sure that our guests get highlighted the way that they should. So those are the changes.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, Amanda, we want to hop into our topic for today.
Yeah, let's do it. And I got this idea because you see the Twitter threads now, like, and kind of they bait me like crazy. It'll say, here's 10 things about this, and then a thread, and they get me out. I just think of the one as far as Google, like the Google ones, and I'm learning so much from them. So I'm like, okay, that's what I'd like to do today, is a top 10 list of our classroom management. So Iowa just started your fall sports today. We start in 2 weeks, and then school's starting up again. And I got to watch you, Preston. You did a great job with your classroom management and your weight room management. So I thought, let's do a top 10 list of 10 things that you focus on regarding management in the classroom, and maybe who you heard them from, a little bit of background. You'll do your list, and then I'll do my list.
Awesome. All right, so my 10, and I'll try to keep them so that people can follow along and be able to write them down as they go. But then also, like Amanda said, where I got them from, or kind of the value that they bring to our program. So the first one, and I think it's so important for every coach to do this, and it's really cool. As I get to teach strength and speed, we get to do a lot of leadership stuff. And I believe if you can't lead yourself well, it's really hard to lead others well. So the very first thing that we talk about for classroom management techniques will be model the behavior that I'm looking for. And the way that we teach that to our kids is use a Latin phrase, facta non verba. And most every one of our kids will know what that means, even though it's not English, and it's actions, not words. So the idea that your actions speak so loud that I can't hear you talking. And what that means for me is that if I want them to work hard in the weight room, or if I want to bring energy, or if I want them to do a number of different things, like what I would say is an ideal environment for our kids to be in, I have to be the one that models that. I have to be the one that leads that up, because if I'm telling them to do it, but then I never show it, it really falls short. So that's number one. And sometimes you can get into discussions about what it looks like to be a strength coach, if you're a rah person, or if you're just going to be the technician, or whatever it is. But we have to realize that kids don't love strength and speed the same way that we love strength and speed, right? Unless we create an environment. And that environment is so, so important to the kids being able to buy into everything that we're doing. And if that environment's not right, then they're just not going to bring it. So that's my first one.
Can you say
Amanda,
the phrase
can
again?
I just keep on going through this, or do you want to hop in on each one of them?
I won't hop in on each one, but I want to hear the phrase again. Actions, not words, but what's the Latin phrase?
Facta non verba.
Okay.
Yep.
Facta non verba. Got it.
And that's my number one. And then number two, this is how we direct our leadership training. We go through a term that I somewhat stole from Elon, or at least I saw it on their strength cards back in the day, is set values that will drive commitment and performance. And those values for us are AED, which is attitude, effort, and discipline. And we define each one of those. We say, okay, what does it, if we can only control attitude and effort, and that's what I truly believe that we can control, is attitude and effort, but we never define what attitude even means or what effort even means, then we've fallen short. So we'll take time and we'll define what attitude is and what effort is. And then why we add in discipline is because it's super important for us to be able to adhere to those values or those standards day in and day out. So attitude and effort are the things that you can control, but you need discipline to be able to do that regularly, consistently. over the long haul. So we go AED, and then obviously when you hear AED, it kickstarts your heart. It's the thing that gets you going. So just a little bit of corny phrase there, but it helps our kids remember what's important and what are the things that are within your control. Amanda, anything with that?
I like AED. You always have the best acronyms for things to like kickstart stuff.
Well, I nerd out in a lot of ways that strength coaches nerd out on sets and reps and scheme and all that type of stuff. I nerd out on like the human component. So I love this type of stuff. And I think it was partially because of my upbringing, but partially because of what it looked like at the high school and college level where our weight room was. And we put a lot of value in leadership and setting standards and values. So those are my top two so far. And those top two right there, we could spend a lot of time within the classroom teaching and the curriculum that goes around those, because that ends up being 12 of the 18 units that we do is based off of those two. So wow. It's a lot of fun and it takes a lot of time to get through it, but I do think it sets the standard for what it looks like to be a Mustang athlete. And then number 3 is start each session with a high five and a smile because connection matters. So what we try to do, and it's funny. I put it on Twitter. I've talked about it on here probably a couple of times. People have probably heard it, but there's 3 things that I try to do every single class period is I want to coach every student athlete. I want to smile at them and say their name, like let them know that I'm associating their name with good feelings, right? And then I want to touch them in some way. And everybody's like, oh, wait. Okay, so that's just so you can remember it. But it's high fives, fist bumps. We even hit elbows now because of COVID stuff, like that just became a thing now where people hit elbows. We'll knock shoes. We'll do a bunch of different things where we're just having connection. And that connection matters. And what you'll see is when you give high fives, fist bumps, any of that type of stuff, there is rarely a time where somebody frowns afterwards. Normally it's tied to a smile, and that changes mindset. That changes the effort that we put in, and I love that. So those are that's number 3, and that's something that I do daily in every class. That's the goal in every class. Do those 3 things. Number 4, organize the room to optimize flow. This classroom management technique is often overlooked. For people that have been doing strength and conditioning in large groups, they know that flow is the key to everything. It creates the environment. It allows kids to work hard, have fun, and feel like they're being efficient. And for you, when you are programming, so much of the weight room setup or the gym setup or the field or the track or wherever you're doing your work is so much set on that setting. What I mean by that is the way you program will be dictated a lot of the time by the environment and the numbers that you have. So being able to organize the room or the gym or wherever it is to optimize flow is so important to being efficient and making sure that students are included and in that, and like having feedback of like what was something that was good with the flow, what's something that's bad, and they understand what I mean by flow because they feel it. Like if it didn't flow right, they'll let me know, right? And so next time we can fix things. Number 5 is emphasize ATD and doing the little things well. So ATD is more acronyms, right? We're in school, so it happens all the time, but kids know this one too. It's attention to detail. Little things add up to be big things. And we want to win the details. So we had a new coach come in a couple years ago. He's a great baseball coach for us. And I was teaching the kids ATD. And he's like, hey, Preston, let's switch that. Let's go WTD. And he's like, it's awesome to be attentive to the details, but we want to go like one step above. We want to win the details. We want to know that the slight edge that you're going to get within competition isn't just being attentive to and like recognizing them. It's actually winning them. And, so like if you hear the old speech, any given Sunday, it's a game of inches. It's like those small things over and over and over add up to be the biggest things. So winning the details is what we talk about now. Number 6, give opportunities to show progress. That's for us, recording workouts, testing, and then we have created a horsepower report. This horsepower report is tied to strength, speed, and power. And they see their numbers based off of standards. And then let's say each one of those categories is out of 12. Let's say they're 10 out of 12, 11 out of 12, and maybe their power is 8 out of 12. Well, when they see each one of those categories and they just notice that the power is the lowest one, that's an easy conversation with me and the kid, and be like, hey, like we're pretty good at strength, we're pretty good at speed. So one of the things that we can really emphasize and really focus on, and while we're doing our plyometrics or our power training right at the beginning of our session, when we're sprinting, when we're jumping, when we're throwing, when we're doing those things, we really need to key in. We really need to focus up. This is the area that you can see the most improvement in. And when you give opportunities to show progress and kids buy into that and they see that helps with the culture, that helps with the environment within the room, and that helps with the buy-in of like why we're doing what we're doing. And so progress is the hook. Like if you're trying to get a kid, if you're trying to help them be the best that they can be, and they actually believe in what you're doing, they have to see progress. So we measure a lot, we do a lot of that type of stuff, and we want to make sure that they record it and see it. So another large portion of that is when kids see progress, they tell their friends about it, right? Like they're excited about it. That's a big part of it. Number 7, talk with every student every day. This makes conversations easier when it's time to have important conversations. So every day, we'll just take examples from the summer. I have one of my coaches, they think of a question of the day. During the school year, I get to do it. It's a lot of fun. But during the summer, I give it to our coaches that come back and help. And our coaches that come back and help, they have a ton of fun with this. And then they all spread out and they talk to the whole room, every one of the kids within the session, about the question of the day. So one of them would be, what is your type of donut? All right. What's your favorite type of donut? And then they go through, and that's easy. Or I'm going to mess this one up, but would you like to fight 100 duck-sized horses? Okay. Or 1 horse-sized duck, right? I think I got it right. But just really funny questions. And then we have conversations over and over with kids. And then what happens is they just get comfortable with us. And I tell them, I'm not trying to sleight of hand or hide what's going on. I want to get to know them. I want to ask them, how's their weekend? I want to know, all of these things, what their favorite donut is. Because when I want to ask them questions about, man, what's wrong with our program? What's something that could get better? What's going on in your life? All of those things. Now they feel comfortable because they've talked to me for 180 days. Now those conversations become easy. And they get mad at me when I don't have the question of the day ready. So an easy one of them for everybody that wants to start this is, what's a great question of the day? And now you just got 20 to 80 more within a session of oh, okay, here's new questions for the next however many days. So that is those conversations, just like before when we said connection matters. That's an easy way to be able to connect with kids.
I see that as an upcoming show. Questions, just constant. And then seeing what you do, because you got to come up with 180 questions pretty much, right?
Yep. So I used to write them all down so that I could reuse them and stuff. But I'm telling you, you just have to be imaginative with it, creative with it. You can think of new questions all the time, and some of them get redone. My wife got me for Christmas, she got me a box of questions, because she knows that I do that, and I'll go home and I'll ask her questions too. And now that our kids are getting old enough, I'll ask them questions too. And it's fun, so it's a good conversation starter, table starter type thing. Table talk starter. Maybe that's the way it should be said.
Yep.
Number 8 is coach every student every day, which this is just diving in a little bit more to the one that I talked about with connection matters. That one where we said high five and a smile, and then I said the 3 things that I do. When we say coach a student, it just means give immediate feedback that actually helps. And what that means is, don't overload them. Don't give them 8 cues. Give them 1. Let them know that you're caring about what they're doing in there. Praise them when they're doing great. When they're not doing so well, if you see them off, don't chew them out. Go see what's up, because most kids, they want to meet expectations. I rarely have found a kid that doesn't want to meet expectations if everything else in their life is right. So within education, that's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So you go in and you check what's going on in your life, because if there's something that's off, then hey, this is something we can talk about. And then once again, connection matters. So now they know that I care. And now they know that I want them to do well. And so if they're having a horrible day, now maybe the weight room or the gym or wherever we're at becomes their safe haven, or it becomes their break in the day. And that's what I want. I want them to want to come. So giving immediate feedback and like having a positive attitude while giving that feedback is so, so important. Number 9, consistent framework that includes variation. So kids like structure, but novelty keeps things interesting. So you have to find a balance. So what I mean by that is if they know a weekly structure and they know how things will fit in for the most part, and then I just swap out different things, different fun activities, they know that there's still a flow, there's still a reason, there's still efficiency there, but the novelty keeps them coming back and being like, oh, what are we doing today? You know, so we have our things that we'll normally do, and routine really sets in habits. And that's what we want, is we want to build habits for a lifetime, but we also want to have the novelty, something new to keep them coming back for wanting more, right? Like the reason why we're addicted to the things that we're addicted to, maybe like our phone, is because we keep on coming back for these hits, right? Well, it's the same idea within a classroom. We want to create an environment where we can give them hits, right? We want them to have a positive opportunity to be around their friends, to create an environment that they enjoy being in. So it's not like I'm making it all chemical based where it's just like we want dopamine hits all the time. But honestly, like if you want somebody to really give the best that they can, it has to be an environment where that's prioritized. And then the 10th one and my last one is tied to that novelty, or finding a balance between those. It's just program in fun. To me, the weight room is fun, but kids love different ways to compete. So in the weight room, we'll find different ways that we can compete. And we try to do that regardless of sport, gender, age, size, doesn't matter. We try to find different ways for everyone to compete and compete well. So we'll do, a lot of times coaches love finishers because it's a great way to like culminate a class, kind of have like a conclusion to class. A lot of times what we can do with after school weights a lot is when I'll do the extended finishers, or a little bit more fun. But like what we can do is just have a little grip challenge or push-up challenge or wall sit challenge, like all those connected to the weight room. But you can also do like all these awesome just small sided games, and kids love it and they compete and they see that as fun. It's easy. So I'm not in math, I'm not in science, I'm not in English classrooms during the day. I'm in physical education, and kids still love to play, right? So it's easy for me. I've got a gym, I've got a weight room, and I've got the outside, the outdoors. We can do anything that we want to. It just has to be within the bounds of what we're trying to get done within class. So trying to be fun with those and putting that all together, I think is super important. All right. So where does all this stuff come from? Primarily, my dad was my strength coach, and so was my wrestling coach. Those two guys poured into me, and they always created an environment that was fun. And they knew that athletes love to compete, and that was like a base for a lot of things. Even more so than that, because this was his realm and this was what he wanted to do all the time. And the reason why I am doing what I'm doing today is because of Joe Quinlan. And if you've ever listened to this show, I'm going to talk about Joe a lot, because he's the one that has molded me into the strength coach that I am. But if you would ask Joe, you know, like, are you a programming guru? Are you a speed training guru? Are you a strength guru? What he is the best at is creating an environment where kids want to give everything they got. Like when Joe would walk up to your rack, you know, you're going to give everything you got. And like he was creating the environment that when he walked away, man, you still wanted to give everything you got, right? Like it's not just when the coach was there, but you just wanted to give everything. And that was done in a lot of different ways. And I don't know if he knows all the ways that he was doing it, but like one of the ones I stole here recently, this was back from when I was in college, but we just did it over the summer and kids loved it, was I had one kid would take the other kid, like a partner that they trusted. That's all I told them. I said, find a partner that you trust, right? And then you're across from that partner. I'm Zoom with Amanda right now, but imagine, Amanda, I'm putting my hands right on your shoulders and I stare you right in the eyes and I tell you something that's going to affirm you in some way. So Amanda, you're going to have a great day today. And then and with a smile. And then Amanda, what you'd have to do is look deep into my eyes too and say, Preston, I believe that, and guess what? You are too, or whatever it is, right? But you're going to say something. And then what happens right there is, first of all, you've connected with somebody and they've said something that affirms you in some way, which is awesome. But every single kid, you just look across the room. I had all my coaches check this out too. Every single person is smiling at the end, and they don't quit smiling. It's not just like a quick smirk. I mean, like, it's awkward and it's funny and all those things, but they smile. That's something that Joe would do. Another thing Joe would do is, I was paired up with like a 300-pound defensive lineman for this one when I was in college, but he'd say, person number 1, go find person number 2, and you're gonna lift him up, you're gonna bear hug him, and you're gonna shake him, okay? And then person number 2, you're gonna find person number 3, and you're gonna give them a nice slap on the back, and then wake them up. And then person number 3, find person number 1, and you're gonna do this. And like, he would do that stuff tied into the workout, and it had nothing to do with anything, other than it had everything to do with everything, right? Like that's the thing, is like, he created the environment that had nothing to do with strength and conditioning, but ended up helping us in every way in strength and conditioning. That's what I love. And that's what I think is kind of like the X factor, like leadership and culture and all these things that are so overdone in different ways and talked about in so many different ways until you actually feel it. And then you're like, oh, shoot, that is the X factor. That is why all of this is so important.
That is a good list. And I've gotten to see you teach in just one class session, and I have seen all these things happen in that short amount of time. So that's fun to be able to reflect on that. Good. What's your favorite?
I think for me, being able to talk to kids every day is the reason why I do what I do. Like, being able to connect with kids. So yeah, I want them to see progress. Yeah, I want to create an environment, but all of that, I want to be able to connect with kids, and I want them to have fun. So, I guess my favorite would be something to do with number 3, start each session with a high five and a smile. Connection matters. I think that might be my number 1 thing that I'm most fond of, but all the other ones I think have to happen for those connections to actually mean anything.
Yeah. Oh, good. Great list. I love it. And counting on my list, I only have 3 I would consider to be same thing. So we're going to give the listeners
all right, let's go. Give them
yeah. So only good. 3. And I'd say most of mine happen within literally the first, 2 minutes. So number 1 is greet them at the door. And I'll put that in, I think, then with my number 1 that I learned from you to put a focus on it and be diligent about it. And that is, a touch or contact or connection right when they walk in the door. And I mean, before, yes, I was a high five coach and lots of high five, but I was never focused on it. And that last year really made a big difference. And especially if you've ever, I think of big groups sometimes, and there can be a barrier like the first week, especially with football with junior and senior boys, sometimes can be a barrier for me. And so having that where we're contacting right away makes a huge difference, and everyone's going to take a high five, going to take a fist bump. So I'd say that would be my number 10 is a touch, contact, connection. And what I also like that is in the school setting, that is also my tardy marker. If somebody is late to class, if you, I close the door and come in and start teaching, and if they didn't have their fist bump, they're like, "What? I missed you. Ah, shoot! And now I have to mark you tardy. Let's make sure I get you tomorrow." So it's also my tardy policy is if they don't get a fist bump or a contact with me, that would be my top one. And then the next one definitely happens at the same time is, I believe in starting class with unstructured time. And so I'll use a countdown timer, and it's usually right around 10 or 5 minutes. And I will give them something to do. Most of the time it's some open gym time, and they have time to just do whatever they want. They could come in and foam roll if it's a weightlifting session. Our weight room is connected to our gym, so it works out really good. But unstructured time, the only goal a lot of times is just to move. So they could walk and talk if they wanted to, and that's what a lot of times people choose to do. And then I'll put a countdown timer on, and then when the clock is out, that's when they have to be on their home spots or wherever they need to be. And it really helps again with, the tardy situation, having a conversation with somebody. And the first thing that I get to say to them is, how's it going today? Instead of, now we're going to do this. So I always start with unstructured time. And then, we trained it at the beginning. I tell them that it's like a running opportunity, and it's never very much, but it only takes 1 or 2 times, and everybody has to be on their spot by the time the clock is out. Because if you've ever been in physical education and you tell them they need to do something, everybody needs to take one more shot and this and that. So everybody has to be in a certain spot by the time the clock is out. So that would be my number 2. And then number 3, I would say, is even before that, is I utilize a whiteboard constantly. The philosophy I tell the kids is that you start the class, I don't start class. So every day I will have the structure on the whiteboard of what the class is. So it'll say what they need to do during their open time, because sometimes maybe they need to check in on something or they need to roll the dice for a team. So it'll check the whiteboard first, you start class, I don't start class. And then again, I tell them that my goal is the first thing I get to say to you is, how's it going today? And we get to have a conversation that has nothing to do with physical education, because you're where you need to be. So utilize the whiteboard, and in the weight room it turns into the computer board, but lots of things that can get done. I went to a session once where I really kind of started thinking about this first 5 minutes of my class. I went to this session about different types of learning, and it broke them into 4 quadrants. One was orange, and they're like the ones who they need to touch things. When they run into a room, they do not want structure. They don't want anything. They want just the variability. They're oftentimes your best at like invasive sports. They can just think on their feet, and they do not want directions right away. So I thought, okay, the open gym time for those. And then there's your yellows, and yellows are, I would equate to a Preston Peterson. They are, they like organization. They like to know what's going to happen. So they like a checklist on the board. So I turn everything for the day into a checklist and they can see it. And then there's the blues, and those are your like human resources people. They need to talk, they want to ask how you are. They need to be asked how they are. They need to be told that their sweater is awesome, or they just, so you can tell those are the ones that naturally gravitate and talk to you during that open time. And then there's the green ones, and I'd equate myself to that. Your green are your logical thinkers. They want to work on stuff on their own and take a little bit of time to focus on something. So I think of those being the ones who maybe want to shoot around or really are into the foam roller or preparing their body for whatever the activity is. So those were what I was thinking of when I framed those first 5 minutes as the different types of learners that you would have in your class.
Those are awesome, by the way. I think that's great to be able to, because I can just think of students in my class that would fit each one of those molds so well.
Yes.
And be able, like, I'm thinking of a presentation title for you right now, and I'm sure everybody else that's listening to the podcast are thinking the same thing. It's like the first 5 minutes matter, right? And then like your 10 steps to making the first 5 minutes make the rest of your class be the best it can be. I love that. That's so good.
Yep. So those things will happen. Okay. And then when we're getting into some of the structural things, I love timer. I've always been very open. I'm into TeamBuildr. I love the TeamBuildr whiteboard timer. There's a lot of other timers that you can use on YouTube, but I use timers like crazy. If, I talked about my first 5 minutes, but if I'm doing a class, like a workout session, I'll give 2 lifts and you have, 7 minutes. We'll get through these sets, and then we'll move on to the next one. Obviously I use it. I think right now only our football team is where we use like the countdown timer, and they have 45 seconds to finish the set, but it definitely flows really nice. And I got that from out of Nebraska. Rob Brokaw is where I kind of started that and then adapted it to what works for our school. So I love timers. I love the countdown timer. I love set timers. Everything kind of put on a time format.
I think I was at that presentation with you. That was back in 2016. So a
Yeah.
few years ago now, but that was at Wyzetta, and Brokaw was presenting at Ryan Johnson's weight room, and he did flows, like different flows. It was like yoga flows and movement flows and stuff like that. But the other thing he did was timers. Is that where you got it from, or was it even before that?
Yep. Nope. That was the first time that I really got to, I'd always kind of heard about it actually, I hadn't heard about it until I think Rob had talked about it somewhere else, but I said, I am anxious to hear you present, because I think the timing system would be the next big thing in our weight room. And it really was. And it definitely clung for our football team, was where, with lots of people in the room, I really like it. I notice now when I don't have a lot of people, I almost like the variability a little bit more of people going at their pace. So that's where, you shorten it to, you have this amount of time to get these lifts done.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he does a great job with it. And I've seen, he showed some great videos of his in action, and it's awesome. Jessica Gust also, she does every single thing on a timer for every group, and it flows so nice. And just the kids are used to it. They don't even know they're doing it. So using the timers. The next one, and I know it's gone out there. I originally saw it at the first National High School Strength Coaches Conference in 2016, but it's Brian Clark's Athlete's Attitude. And it's, got the steps, and I've seen so many variabilities of it, and coaches have made it their own. But it really does make a difference of asking a student, where do you think you're at right now? Are you committed, or are you compelled? And talking about what the difference means. And then Mark Hoover created an excellent rubric for it based on that. And I actually have that right up in my classroom, and he's always open to sharing that. And it's, like he said, he doesn't even hardly use it anymore. He had made it for something, but I have that all color coded and on every single rack. And then at the reflection each week, I'll ask, where do you think you're at this week? Why? And we really reflect on it. So I love that athlete's attitude. If anybody needs, maybe my copy of it, feel free to reach out to me. I can shoot you a picture of it. Let's see. I think I'm on about 5. The next one.
I think 6.
6. Okay. The next one I learned from listening to Kevin Vanderbush, who, if you've ever heard him speak and how he runs his class and how he talks with his students, amazing. He's somebody who holds students accountable, but you can tell he's got this wisdom presence. And one thing that really stood out to me, so when you are talking or when you're having a hard conversation with somebody in the weight room, make sure that the students are not facing their peers. So as a coach, you should be facing the peers, and the student should be facing you. And then you can be having the conversation. If it's a hard conversation, instead of the student's facial expression that the other, peers that are in there are going off of, now they're going to be going off of the coaches, and the focus is on the coach, not on that student that might be getting called out. So I loved that. I actually saw it last year. A coach was in our weight room and got after a kid, and I saw that he was in the situation where the coach was yelling at the kid in this instance, and the kid was so embarrassed. And it was nice to be able to have that conversation with the coach. Okay, if you need to correct the student, maybe could this be a different way that could put the focus on the coach instead of the student? So very wise, something super little, but could probably change a relationship with a student. So I like that. 7, sight lines. I've seen some amazing weight rooms. I love them. All the equipment that is there, everything. And then you look at it, it's like, I could only see half the room right now. So setting your room up for sight lines and just moving it over. And I thought it was great. Somebody named Jeremy Christensen just reached out on the NHSSCA Facebook group. He's out of Minnesota, and he's just taken over a program. He showed his weight room, and coaches gave him some great insight. And then he showed it after of how he rearranged everything so he has sight lines and can see everybody in the room. So I really like that. And I've learned if you have the bumper plates in the middle, and then like you have your racks in the middle and then you have bumper plates on it, it's so hard to see the rest of the room. Have you seen that, Preston?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm a fan of having your bumper plates down and being able to see everybody in every corner, even if you got to move stuff around. Where am I at?
You are on number 8 now.
8. Okay, perfect. I have 3 left. Okay, the next one, same thing as you had said as far as having a structure. I call it a sitcom format of routine, right? You know what's going to happen in a sitcom, but you still want to watch it the next time, right? So you know there's going to be a beginner, there's going to be a little bit of drama or friction, and then we're going to, close it up at the end. So I think of weightlifting sessions like that, where it's not going to be exactly the same, but the students know that it's going to be the same type of format. We're going to start, the beginning, how we start. We are going to have some sort of warm up or progression. Their weightlifting structure is going to be the same as far as we do 2 extra, a A, a B, and a C. So they know that that's going to happen, and then we're going to all finish together. So I call it a sitcom format, but you change a lot of things. I think of warm-up wise, something I'll always change, but it's still the warm-up, is when our football team, or any team for that matter, lifts in the morning, I'll always do a game instead of a traditional warm-up, just to get people waking up and they go into the weight room laughing instead of dog tired, and Monday mornings can be hard. So that'd be the variability. Number 9 goes into the coaching part. I try to not talk about form until I've talked about something else with a student. So if I see a student and I want to correct them on their form, I ask myself, have I talked to them about something else yet? Have I talked to them about their day? Have I talked to, and if I haven't, I don't talk about form. I will though, however, talk to somebody else and ask them to talk to them about, just something little, and then I'll talk to the student, and then I will go back and talk about form. And obviously, if it's an unsafe situation, I mean, well, there's variables, but that's what I think about with students. Something, or for that matter, anything regarding weightlifting or what a student should be doing, talk to them about something else. And then my last one, I don't know where I got this. I don't know how I started it, but I think it'll be my legacy, is I do at the end of a session of the philosophy, we start together, we end together. And so we'll all meet together. If we need to say anything else needs to be cleaned up, people know. And then we finish the lesson with 1, 2, 3, and then we clap to end out the lesson. And kind of a funny story is I did the graduation speech this year, and I wrote a poem as the ender, and then the ending was, I'm not going to let you out of here without a 1, 2, 3 clap. And so then I did another rhyme, and the entire gymnasium was there, and everybody kind of joined us, and it was the last thing that the graduating class did, and it was really good. I was crying, people were crying. It was it was good. But that's how we leave a session, is 1, 2, 3 clap. And it's just a teacher said to me one day, think of if a student doesn't have anything in their life that they're a part of and that they can be part of, and then that includes every single person in the room when you do that, and everybody is focused on one thing and they're really a part of something. So that always kind of hit me, that I make sure that happens.
That's really cool. I want to see a video of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I should put, that'll be hopefully a legacy that will stick around.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, after maybe the first 3, we got out of the first 5 minutes matter presentation, and you kept on rocking and rolling with the rest of the class. So now I'm gonna have to figure out different ways to name your presentation, right? But that was super great. What's one of them that you think stands out the most to you? Is it number 10 then? or your number one, however you want to say it?
I think, the clap is definitely number one, but I really think the concept, because I try to have control of so much. I love that open time that we give at the beginning. I don't have control of it, and sometimes it's chaos and sometimes it's not perfect, and it helps me to grow. So I'd say that would be my favorite, is just watching kids do what they want to do.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that open time. That's awesome. I'm trying to think of a way that I can work that into our schedule. We have really short class periods on some of the days and longer on others. So maybe on the long class periods, I can work some of that in. I found so much value in listening to how you do your classroom management techniques. I think we need to like somehow tie that into some of our shows in the future. I think that would be really cool because I'm sure there's coaches across the nation that have just these awesome little things that would make our classroom better. That would make the weight room or our training or whatever it looks like better. So very cool. Love it.
Love it. Well, I think this is going to be a great season. And I think one thing that separates us is that we are working coaches and we're in this. So I want to also remind, people sometimes, if we do all our own editing and there's a lot that goes into it, but we're excited to be here and excited to share this next upcoming year with you.
Yes. All right.
All right.
Here we go. Season 5.
All right.